Wanna discipline me for being right? I got you, by user a trucker's thoughts. I work for a freight delivery company, drive a semi-truck, and usually go out with 10 to 15 deliveries a day. Our policy is that when you deliver to a residence you have to take a picture with the work phone as an additional proof of delivery. That has morphed into now if the delivery receipt, DR, says residential you have to take a picture of it, regardless if it's going to a business or a house. There are so many small details on a DR that can get missed, so this is an important detail. One day last week I have a delivery for a Laura Lopez, name changed. It was being delivered to a construction company that Laura is an employee of, the doctor does not say it's residential. I make the delivery and leave, no picture. Next morning my bitch of a supervisor says, I have a write-up for you. Puzzled, I ask her for what? For the Laura Lopez delivery yesterday, it was residential. I explained to her that it was at a business and the DR did not say residential. She wasn't having it. I should also mention that her and I butt heads often and she's been trying to get rid of me for some time. I told her that we need to go talk to my manager about it, so we do, and he sides with me because she has no ground to stand on. This infuriates her. I tell her that under no circumstances will this be an issue again. That day is when I start my MC. I take pictures with the work phone at every stop. What happens is when I hit depart on the work phone it sends a pop-up to her computer with the picture and she has to acknowledge it before she can do anything else on her computer. I crashed her computer 3 times that day. At one stop I took 20 pictures. I get a call from her telling me that I have to stop taking pictures. I politely tell her that I'm covering my ass and not going against policy. I'm giving you an order. I laugh and hang up. Sure as shit she wrote me up for it. I don't even argue, I say we need to take it to my manager. I walk in and he says, what now? I tell him the story, he looks at her, takes the write-up and rips it up. Are you seriously writing him up for overperforming? She had no words, and I still take a picture at every stop because I'm petty lol. XBF told me to freely tell anyone anything about him. So I did, by user emergency housing 547. I'm 39F, and 8 years ago I was dumped by my ex, he's 44 now. I'm usually on good terms with my exes, but that one was a piece of work. He body shamed me. Apparently a woman weighing 64 kilograms is extremely fat and unappealing. He forced me to do things I hated, and he cheated for half a year, not wanting to break up until we go on 2 trips paid by me. He made a point of telling me in which ways his new GF is better, smarter, read agreeable, and thinner. It was so bad, I ended up in a mental ward. Oh, and he told me that no one would believe me anyway, and nobody cares how he treats women, so I'm free to bitch online about it. Okay then, I got better, calmed down, and started bitching. I wrote a "don't hire that one" post. He has an extremely rare surname, only ones I know are either his family or a world-famous athlete. It helped me a lot. I wrote how he can't keep a job for more than half a year, because he thinks that he's smarter than anyone and argues instead of doing what needs to be done. How his references are fake because these are his friends' contacts, not high employers. How he puts a gazillion of courses in his CV to wear the reader out. His CV is 30 pages long, ain't nobody got time for that, so that they won't catch to how little experience he actually has. How he's sure that sleeping with a business contact could be helpful for business, and that women sometimes need to be beaten up to see light. It's all very true. I had screenshots of chats to prove it. Oh, did you mean that I can tell about our breakup, but not about your professional life? Well, you didn't specify. I'm moderately popular at social media, so a month or so later an HR contacted me to clarify. Apparently he applied for a position. Well, I saw to it and he didn't get it. It happened twice more, but I suppose a lot more HRs checking social media just read my post silently. One time some bikers contacted me for his phone number. He apparently wrote about a girl, a well-known racer, who died in crash, trashing her as a dumb b*tch who deserved it. I suppose that phone call didn't end very well. I check on him once every 2 years or so. No career, no family, girlfriends are apparently way smarter than me and run away screaming after half a year tops. I suppose that someone did believe me after all. And I'm happily married to a great guy and am a bit famous professionally. Stupid fat and ugly me. Food allergy charity doesn't want to pay their bills? Enjoy a nutty party, by user agreeable key 3914. I work in a food catering place which can fulfill allergy-free requests. We have the expertise and care not to include allergic food, either as a hidden ingredient or by accidentally sharing contaminated utensils and pans while cooking. In our experience, the 4 most common allergies are peanuts, tree nuts, eggs and milk. Cooking meals without these 4 ingredients will usually satisfy everyone at an event. We had a new client, a food allergy advocacy group. They ordered a large catering last month and didn't pay us since. We were out of pocket $2,000 and were considering legal action. This charity had the nerve to place another order with us, but this time a smaller one costing $450. The group asked for the meals to be nut-free vegan instead of nut/egg/milk-free, as this would ensure them a peanut, tree nut, egg, and milk-free event for cheaper, as they would avoid our additional allergy-free preparation fees. This was reckless behavior from the advocacy group, as the party attendees were most likely anaphylactic to milk and egg. Think deadly peanut allergies but for dairy, milk, cheese, cream, and egg products instead. Had we not known they were a food allergy charity, then we would have not taken as much care in ensuring the meals were egg/dairy free and would have just focused on the nut-free angle instead. There was one important thing the charity forgot: it's now possible to buy dairy which is made from lab-grown milk from yeast. The protein is identical to milk but is technically vegan. We cooked all the meals with this lab-grown dairy and loaded it in the van. Upon arriving to the function hall, we informed the charity organizers that the meals had lab-grown dairy in them. The charity owner started blasting off on how it was meant to be dairy-free and how they have people deathly allergic to milk in the event. I simply explained that the order was nut-free vegan since we used lab-grown milk, and that they had failed to pay us the last order and that this was simply going to be our team Christmas party if they didn't accept the order. The owner went ballistic and began pushing me. The rest of us restrained him and the function hall called the police. The owner lied and told the police that we had dropped and assaulted him. The police asked the function hall for the CCTV and then moved us both along. The police did inform us at the commotion that we could head down to the station tonight and provide a witness statement should we wish to press charges. A few moments later, the owner called and begged for an apology and offered to pay us both the original and today's invoices right there and then. I decided to take the apology and the cash. Our team had a nice pre-Christmas party with the vegan lab-grown dairy meals. You want me to act my wage? Alright then, by user webdef403. This was my first job a few years back. I was a working student at a startup as webdev. I was specialized in the field they deployed their software in as well as the used technology. The first year was great. I learned a lot, and though I had a contract for 20 hours I worked at least 40, more than a few weeks even 60. I identified myself with the company, with the product, with the people. Come another year down the road, people wanted to implement a feature. I raised concerns that I might be difficult to implement, given the software architecture at that point, and also probably useless because the metrics were a mess. The CEO told me to act your wage and I thought to myself, alright, will do. I strictly committed to my 20 hours per week, didn't work a second longer. I updated my CV, got an interview and a new job, quit with a month notice. The company leadership was horrified and had to take actions I learned later. To hire a new web dev who could pick up work where I left, they had to fire almost the whole sales department. My resignation caused them to lay off almost 30% of their workforce. By today the company operates with 35% remaining employees. Edit. I should also mention that clients ran off because the support line was not manned 24/7 anymore, that bug fixes took way longer and that new features were very faulty because I only implemented what was in the very badly described tickets. Edit 2. I think I need to clarify a few things. First of all, the location of work was in Germany, so I had to follow German legislation, 1 month notice because of the working student engagement. All hours got compensated, I made sure of that. It should also be noted that it was during the studies of my master's degree in computer science, so the work benefited my studies. What professor asks for, professor gets, by user nocartographer8435. I had a hand in this malicious compliance, and it was rather nice. First, a little information. Back when I was working as a classroom technician for my local community college, after I graduated, the college had a need for a technical scribe for a blind student. They needed someone who could not only provide direction of what the computer was showing on the screen, that the Dragon software that audibly gave cues on what you were doing, was unable to, but also had the technical skills to also know how to work the software that was being used. I fit in perfectly, and so was hired on to do the technical interpreting for the student for the quarter. The professor assigned for the students to create a user interface that did some specific things. Well, the paper that he gave out had a general idea of what the students were to create. To help, but not overly help. I designed the general GUI, graphical user interface, and then let the student do the brunt of the work that Dragon functioned for, and I filled in the gaps by verbally cueing him on where he was, and what to do next because Dragon wasn't giving any cues. Student then turned in the assignment. Professor asks us to come to his office the next day, and says that he knows I did the GUI part, and it was the student's responsibility to do their own interpretation of what he handed out. I was about to explain, but the student grabbed my arm, politely apologized and said he will do as asked. We leave his office and I ask what's up? He replied, "Can you edit the settings on those laser printers in the computer lab to print a page of nothing but black?" I said sure. So, we do so, and after that black page was printed out, we went back to the professor's office. He said, "Well, that was quick." The student handed over the paper, and the professor was very confused. Student then spoke up, "You said for me to design a GUI based off of what you printed. This is what I saw, so I am giving you my interpretation of the image that you printed for the class." At that moment, the professor had a light bulb go off in his head, realizing that he required a blind student to give their interpretation of an image he printed for the class. He apologized, said the previous work will be counted, and for future assignments to proceed as we had been. He then said to the student, "Well played.